Just want to mute my notifications in case people start trying to.
Hi, this is Claudia Filos with the Center for Hellenic Studies. I'm here today with Gregory Nagy, Leonard Muellner, Douglas Frame, and Ali Marbury. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're here today. We're continuing our series where we're reading the Odyssey. So our goal is to look at the poetry of grammar and the grammar of poetry with an eye to new readers. Maybe it's their first time exploring the ancient Greek, maybe using tools, maybe using text. And so we're just inviting our guests here to read through the text, in little small chunks, a few lines at a time, translate it, and then discuss really what's jumping out at them as they're reading today. So we appreciate your time. Last time we stopped at line 43, so could we start at line 44 today? So Greg, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Ton ýmείβετ ἐπειτα θεά γλαυκῶπις Athene. Ýπατε ἐμείτερε Κρονίδη, ύπατε κρειόντων. λίην κεῖνός ἐοικότι κεῖται ޮλέθρษ์ω. Hos ἀπόλοιτο āλλος, φωτίς τοιαῦτά γερέτζοι. I think I'll stop there. I'll control myself and try to translate. Him did answer then the goddess, the one with the looks of an owl, Athena. And I quickly say a variant interpretation is the one with gray looks, Athena.
Or the one who radiates owls from her eyes.
Well, that's what I meant when I said with the looks of an owl.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Because for me, looks is a two-way street.
Yes.
It's like I can say to somebody, that picture, that painting looks awful, but I could be looking at that painting. So
yes.
The painting is looking at me, and I'm looking at the painting. And this goes back to Muellner's pathfinding article about gλαυκῶπις and boopis, which I would just translate with the looks of an owl, with the looks of an ox, and it has to do, if Lenny is correct, with what kind of vision you see when you're initiated into mental communion with goddesses like Athena and Hera, but if you say with the looks of an owl, you can't really tell.
That's right.
which way you're going. So
whether she looks like an owl
and that's fine with me.
Yes, I get it.
So anyway, that was my trick there, so I managed to get through one line.
Can I just clarify that for myself a little bit? So. Looking like an owl, it could mean you see as an owl sees.
Yes,
that's what you're saying.
Oh, that's a beautiful way.
Yep. Okay.
But it's also, hi, I'm on a bivouac, and I've been fasting for X days, and I'm hallucinating, and so are all my comrades, and we're all seeing an owl. Or that's for Athens. Or in Argos, hi, I'm on an Argive bivouac.
Yes.
And my companions and I are now hallucinating after X days, and we all see collectively an ox.
Okay.
That's Hera.
And that would be
that's a little harder to intuit.
Well, but it's metonymy. It's not that you're seeing Hera. You're seeing something that is closely linked with Hera.
Yes, that I get. And especially for Athena, because she actually does appear as a bird.
Yes,
right.
And so it could be Athena. It could be Athena appearing as a bird. It can be how you look at a bird, how the bird looks at you.
Yep.
So it's all one bird.
I just good. No, I just wanted to dwell on that.
And I'm glad we did, because I think, Claudia, this is the first time we've had one of these goddess epithets.
Yes. So I'm glad you stopped there and are really having us highlight that and really think about that carefully.
And owls have extraordinary eyesight, by the way.
Yes.
I learned this on television.
Beautiful.
Ultimate source of truth.
But the size of their eyes is what gives them this unusual.
Yeah, and the Athenian owls have very big eyes, right? In their standard representation.
Yes.
They're the wise potato chips owls. Right?
So they take in a lot of light, right? So they see well. And I may be wrong about this, but I think, the cone shape around the eye has to do with their hearing. I think their ears are located close to these dishes, that surround their eyes, so that it also collects a lot of sound. So that as birds of prey, they have both this vision and this unusual hearing.
So, what you're mentioning is super interesting, not only just for these owls, but in terms of as we get to the point where we're thinking about some of the similes and the metaphors that we'll read together in Homer. I mean, there's a really beautiful and interesting thing that happens with the presentation of these animals, right? Lenny, maybe you want to say just a word about that? We haven't gotten to one yet, but can you give us a quick placeholder?
You talking to me? I'm not sure who you're asking.
It's like
Claudia.
a taxi driver.
Talking to me?
Oh.
I don't have one in mind, Claudia. But do you? Have you got something specific?
I bet she does.
Oh, I'm sorry. We were breaking up, but I think you're asking me what I had in mind. Well, I was just thinking about the way that the presentation of animals can be very, very specific, right? So Lenny has looked at some metaphors and similes of animals, and let's say
you were asking, right?
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Very precise, but
So maybe yeah.
But we were just talking the other day about lions, for example, and there's this new manuscript that we've been looking at where you get these amazing details about lions, and the detail is not only verifiable in terms of the way the Homeric system works, okay, and meaningful in that way, but also verifiable as observation of lions' behavior in nature. And there are some amazing things about stuff like that. But, so it works both ways.
Well, can I just mention another example that we sort of stumbled on a few years ago? This is when we were doing translating, and I think it was in Book 3 of the Odyssey for some reason. When, I'm not going to be able to do this quite right, but they're sacrificing a 1-year-old cow who is now a draft animal. And we started thinking about that. Oxen are draft animals, not cows. But if you look into it, you do your Google search, you find that actually cows are draft animals at 1 year of age. And so the Homer's got it right.
Wow.
Yeah, okay.
So
How beautiful.
You want me to tell you the detail that there was a detail in this manuscript about lions after they consume a carcass of a deer, then they eat the bones, it says in Homer. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that's exactly what they do.
Mm-hmm. There you are.
Yeah. So a fancy word for all of this would be ethnozoology and ethnobotany, and not just in Homeric poetry. There's nothing particularly surprising about the fact that Homeric poetry has this, but in general, folk traditions are keenly observant of the environment, of the nature that surrounds them. And I would just add one more thing. This is dedicated to Doug. That if you're a 5th century Athenian and you hear this epithet for Athena, you say, oh, this is Our Lady of Athens, because it's in Athens that the goddess is particularly associated with owls. But there's one exception, or one, may I put it this way, leftover. When you go to Pylos, and Doug is the expert on how Pylos and the region of Messene is very important to the prehistory of the making of Athens and the making of Ionia culturally. So it turns out there's a Stolos tomb in the vicinity of the so-called palace at Pylos, and archaeologists have found there tiny gold sheets that are shaped as owls, and they look uncannily like Athenian owls. And these are not even dated to 1250 or whatever, which is when the administrative center burned down, but earlier. So it's a Tholos tomb, and so you might say, dear Doc, that it's a Meliad signature, the owl.
Yeah.
And by Meliad, I mean the patrilineal that produced Nestor and produced the mythology of Nestor.
Yeah, which goes through Athens. Yeah.
Which then goes through Athens, and that's the key. So here are the three friends spending a lot of time on this one line, but it's worth it because this is the first time Athena appears with this particular epithet, and this epithet tells worlds. For a text culture, people will say, oh, so what does it mean if it comes here for the first time? Kind of forgetting that if you're part of a song culture, you've heard this epithet applied to this goddess ever since you were 4 years old in maybe hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of performance traditions by the time you're 14, and by the time you're 44 or whatever.
Right.
So epithets are extremely important, and it was worth our time and effort, I think, to talk about it. And the late Nicole Loraux, L-O-R-A-U-X, used to describe epithets as micro-récits, micro narratives. And we talked a little bit about that in previous meetings. Yeah. But let me push myself ahead to the remainder of my translation, and I'll go very quickly now. No, I won't go quickly. I have to stop. So now Athena speaking, oh, our father. And it's interesting that Athena talks about, addresses Zeus not as my father, but as our father, because there's a social dimension here to the role of Zeus as the head of the Olympian regime. Son of Kronos, the highest of all rulers, very much so. By very much so, it's like deservedly so, but I'm just trying to translate it literally. Very much so did that one, and that's Aegisthus, get killed and now lies in rightful death. So lίην is very much, ἐοικότι is rightful or fitting, and so now that I've done it in a very clumsy way, where I said very much, that one with a fitting death, he lies there dead. The idea is that he was killed, and rightfully so, and he lies there dead in his death, in a way that is very, very appropriate to the situation. Yeah, try it one more time, and it's hard to put it all together. And very much that one, in a rightful way, in a rightful death, he lies. Did he lie? Or no, he does lie, having been killed. And having been killed is understood. Okay, I've tortured myself enough about that. Next time. So also may any other person perish who would do such things, parenthesis, as Aegisthus did. Okay, and there I come to an end.
Okay, so you're passing? We're done? That's beautiful.
So we're passing the baton here.
Yeah, I think
Lenny.
that's the next piece, because I want to read the one after one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, good.
But where should I stop?
Wherever you want.
Oh, you want to do the one after, but I don't know where that is.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Εχούσι.
Okay.
You've got a sentence.
Oh, I see it. Yeah. Okay. Alla moi Odysseį, dαΐφρονι daitor dus moro, hoste deitha pilon apopema tapaske, neiso and amphirute, Othitom phalos esti thalases, nīsos dendreesa, theaden domatanae, atlantos ducater olo ophronos, host thalases, passes benthea oiden. Ηκαίτεται κεῖνος αὐτός μακράς, γαῖάν kai οὐρανὸν αμφισακούσιν. So
that takes us through 54, just in case people are following along. Okay,
54,
go ahead.
Yes. Let's see. So Greg just did gist this, that according to Athena, he got what was coming to him. And then she goes on to say, but my heart is split, divided, pained, over warlike-minded Odysseus, evil-fated Odysseus, who indeed for a long time suffers pains away from his dear ones in a sea-washed island where the navel of the sea is. We did this before. I remember we talked about the navel of the sea. An island covered with a wooded island, let's just say it that way, a wooded island, and the goddess lives in her home there, the daughter of a destructive-minded Atlas, who knows the depths, Benthea, I'm jumping ahead to the next line, of the whole sea, and he himself holds the columns, the tall columns, makras, which keep apart earth and heaven. And that's where I stop. Yep. So this is just identifying Calypso. And I think we've already talked about the center of the sea, the navel of the sea, and how that really couldn't be more, that's the way you say, as far away as possible from any human contact. I think that's the point. And then she is I want to talk a little bit about her too. I'm not sure this is the best place to do it, but if you compare descriptions of Calypso and the meaning of her name, even, you know, the one who encloses and so on, but you compare a lot of features of this figure in the Odyssey, it really maps almost one for one with the goddess Styx, right? That who is also lives very far away from all the other gods. Anytime that the Styx has to be reached, a messenger has to be sent. Living in a cave is part of it.
She lives in her home, right? And domata, I think it's important. Right? And domatanae means houses, right? As opposed to
well, okay, I'll take that. But in my mind, for some reason, it is a cave. But we'll see as we go on.
I'm wrong. Do you have a recollection about this?
Right? Well, yeah, I have a take.
Yes.
Which is. But I can save it. I'll just do a placeholder now.
Yeah.
Which is that in the natural world, you can metaphorize it as a palace that has doors in it, but it's still natural.
But at the beginning it said "Anspeci glavroisi," right? So you're right. It said it was in her cave. So it's her home.
It's really a cave.
I take back.
And I give you just one example of this, which is it's very funny. There's a special a kind of song that a frustrated male lover will sing if the female beloved shuts him out of her building, okay? And at that point, the male lover will bang on the door because the door is locked on him, and say, let me in, let me in. And naturally, in the Hellenistic era, the Greeks have a name for this, paraklausifuron, which is a closed door song, where you're banging on the door saying, let me in, let me in. And in Theocritus, who is this very sophisticated poet who sort of imitates, shall we say, pastoral poetry, there's a moment where the Cyclops, this brutish, uncivilized beast who's in love with a beautiful nymph, is trying to get into her cave, and it's a cave, but he sings a paraklausifuron, as if he were banging on the door, but there's no door to bang on, but he's still an excluded lover, as in Roman poetry, an exclusus amator, an excluded lover. So it's a lovely, I think, poetic trope.
Okay. Well, I'll take the cave, because this also applies to sticks. If you read the description in Hesiod's Theogony, the other thing is that a messenger has to be sent to these remote figures. Maybe I said that already, but here the Hermes, I think maybe it's Iris who gets sent. Also, God, what I'm trying to get at with all of this is that this is Odysseus is basically dead, but it isn't quite said. You know, that instead of Styx, it's a goddess who's just like Styx, but whose name means the encloser. And even gods get knocked out and sent to Styx when they swear. Am I right about this? They forswear themselves. They swear a false oath, and they actually get knocked out, I believe. You know that they
get as close to death as you'll get as an Olympian.
Right. So all of this, I think, is part of the poetic surroundings for Calypso and Odysseus's condition at the moment. Okay.
Beautiful. Okay.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Well,
all right, Lenny, did you want?
Well, the other
sorry, go ahead.
that I haven't commented on, and I don't think I can particularly, is that thinking about it is she is the daughter of Atlas, and the significance of that. And I have nothing really to say about that. I guess everybody knows about Atlas holding the heavens, you know. But it's imagined in terms of what is it here? It's keinos. These are columns. These are like columns on a temple, right?
Yeah.
And that's
holding up a roof. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the columns, and otherwise known as the pillars of Heracles.
Heracles, right?
Which is where Atlas also hangs out. And it's this wonderful thing of how in theogonic traditions, back in the beginnings of time, earth and sky were, of course, fused, and then they're separated because of the castration of Uranos, the proto-sky god. But then it's always a problem of keeping them apart. And what if the sandwich collapses again, and the top of the Wonder Bread and the bottom of the Wonder Bread just come together again, and there's nothing in between? And who keeps them separate? It's Atlas.
Right.
And okay, at the pillars of Heracles, there he is, but the daughter is somewhere in the sea. And are the sky and earth apart there? Who knows? Because it's the sea.
I do have a thought on this, and that is just that this is Western. You know, we're talking about the Atlas Mountains and the exit to the unknown ocean.
Yes.
And I think I talked a little bit about that one of the earlier sessions, that you can tell. The only thing you can tell about Calypso's location is from when Odysseus comes back. He keeps the North Star to his left, so he's coming from the west. So this fits with the pillars of Heracles, as you were saying.
And death, or stylized death. Yeah. And Odysseus is as good as dead at this point. And you say, oh, but they're having sex together. That's okay. Sex and death can go together in this mythology. Yes, it's okay.
Well, there is one interesting thing about him is that he knows the
Yes.
And he keeps a
Oh, wait, Lenny, can you just say where you are so we can stay with you?
lines 152, where it says, "Who knows all the depths of the whole sea."
152.
150. No.
You said 100.
No, just 52. Yeah, so just 50.
Yeah, sorry. So he has sea and sky and earth in his.
He does.
In his domain.
It's very, very cosmic.
Yeah.
It's got it all.
Yeah. I don't think we usually think of him as knowing the sea.
No, but it's certainly appropriate to Calypso, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so she's his daughter in that way, right? So
Right.
it's sort of there's an overt connection.
Very cosmic.
Yeah. There's another thing about this, and that's that since we were talking about epithets of dαΐφρονι, which I think we translated it in the standard translation, but the line is dαΐφρονι dietai etor, and it looks like dietai etor is a etymological gloss on dαΐφρονι, right?
Split.
His heart is divided about Odysseus with a divided heart.
Right.
And in a sense, it's about their sympathy with one another, hers and his, right?
That's a hard word because it can refer to intelligence. It can refer to warfare, hostility.
Yeah.
And all of those things.
Yeah.
And here's another problem, which is if you're just looking at dietai, it could mean his heart is burning.
Yes.
But then you look it up in Liddell and Scott. I'm not saying that will decide anything, but Liddell and Scott translated exactly the way Doug did, which is his heart is divided.
Right.
But again, even with dαΐφρον, the question is that someone with a divided heart, or is it somebody with a heart on flame, on fire?
Right.
Yeah. Very tough, especially the dαΐφρονι. Tough to know how to do that.
So it may be a gloss, as Lenny says, but that doesn't settle it.
No.
Because that kind of glossing is something that could be typical to Homer, right?
Yes.
Lenny? Where one little phrase or one line.
But obviously there's meaning here in the juxtaposition of Odysseus as dαΐφρον, as somebody who has a mind or a heart that is divided or maybe on fire, and dietai, which is the next word. All I'm saying is that dαΐφρον seems to me in another context, in generic context, somebody who's and thrown, which would derive from threin, threnes, etc., is a word that can refer to either emotional or rational processes.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that da'i, it's like edain. He learns. Yeah, it's that root.
So
or didasco. Didasco.
It's
but I think whatever it is, there's a what's being asserted is that her relationship, her feelings are echoed in something in him, right? There's a sympathy between the two. Right.
No, there's not only a sympathy, there's a psychic connection.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's interesting that if you look it up, this word, dαΐφρον, in Liddell and Scott, they'll just bluff their way through. Their first definition is fiery, warlike, and they'll give examples in the Iliad where it's warlike heroes engaging in battle. And then right after that, wise, prudent. And the first example in the Odyssey that they give is the passage we've just read.
Right.
But it can also be a charioteer, it can be a craftsman, and whatever it is, what we're dealing with is two different roots that somehow work their way into one word that has a very wide range of applications. And we're not going to settle it, Claudia.
No, this is so helpful and interesting, right? That's exactly what we need to do, is think about new readers as they're working their way through the text, and maybe using dictionaries, trying to figure these things out, right? And it's still something to think about and keep reading, looking at examples, and that's why you do it, right?
Yeah.
Great. So Lenny, I know you were excited to read the next section.
Tu thugater du steinon odu romanon kataruke, de malakoisi kai haimulioisi lagoisi, felge haposithakes epilesatai, āvtār Odysseus. Maybe I should stop there.
No.
Okay. Manos. Okay, I can do some of this anyway. Kai kapton apapros kanton aesai, hes gaies İmēretai. How about there?
Yeah.
Okay. So the daughter of that man, of Atlas.
Of that person.
Of that person. Okay. Yes, not that.
Yeah.
Constrains him, holds him back, dusteinon, grieving, and aduramanon, lamenting, right? And she always. You want to say something, Claudia?
No. Sorry, I was just being wowed. I'm sorry. I'll zip it. Please go on.
And always with gentle and haimulioisi, with the usual translation of this word is a word that's not in people's vocabulary anymore. Wheedling. It's seductive logoi. Maybe we can come back to that.
Words.
Well,
for the moment.
Okay, yeah, words. She thelge him, bewitches him. Okay, so that he will forget Ithaca. But as for Odysseus, longing for just to see, noesai, to perceive the smoke leaping up, the kapton apatros kanta, the smoke leaping up from his land. Thanaein ἡμέτερε, he desires to die. So this word logoi is not the usual word for speech in the epic, which is either muthos or epos, right? And if you it's also where this formula you find in Hesiod also used of lying speech. Here it's stuff that's trying to seduce him, language to seduce him, but it's words that would divert the hero from his quest, right? If you paid attention to them. So it's not the standard word for logoi, for speech rather, and it has a narrowed and a negative meaning, I think, in the poetry.
Can you think of any other passages with logoi?
The one in the Theogony is nice.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Have you published on this?
No.
Then I'd like us to return to this.
Okay. Have you?
No.
You have an idea of this? Okay, we can look back.
But I worry a little bit about whether there are negative connotations of logoi.
Okay.
Would you repeat what you said about the Theogony?
So it's a line in the. I'm trying to remember the whole thing, but maybe we should look at it. And maybe I can look at it when we look at the next part, where you also have this word used and this formula used of language that's deceptive and that has negative connotation.
Oh, it's the same line.
Yes.
Exactly.
Or at least the formula is.
Logoisi.
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't remember quite what the.
I'm trying to remember it, but it's gone out of my head a little.
Is it Prometheus?
No, it's not.
No.
It's a female.
Female.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Hesiod.
In Hesiod. Yep. I'll find it when we
we move on.
That's great. That could be an addition, right? So don't worry about it.
All right.
We can get back and continue that conversation.
So then there's that he might forget Ithaca. That maybe Doug would like to talk about that.
Oh, let's see. Sure. To remember and to forget, closely connected with getting home, right? You nostoio lathetai, to forget his homecoming. I'm trying to think of some other formulas, but anyway, meidomai is another verb, to remember, to think about homecoming. A lot of mental connotations to either remembering or forgetting your homecoming. So it is a mental, has a mental component to it.
And how about Thelge?
Let me just throw out one quick example, and that's the lotus eaters, right?
Yeah. That's a good one.
That makes the point, right?
Yeah.
That
Beautiful.
if you eat the lotus, you'll forget, and you won't make it home.
You'll forget your nostos, yeah.
And this would have happened to Odysseus. He would have stayed and eaten the lotus forever, except that he was tied to the mast, right? And his way of experiencing this thing, and but still remembering his nostos once he got away.
And so can you just talk that Thelge, that verb? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's an interesting word in terms even about poetry, right?
Yes. So it's used of the wand of Hermes that when he makes you fall asleep with it and wakes you up with it. And I think there's one cognate, it's a Lithuanian word that's a magic word.
In Lithuanian,
yes.
It means, hello, I'm a snake, and I'm looking at you, and I'm paralyzing you.
Yeah.
So it's enchanting, it's hexing by way of looks, and obviously in Greek it's not restricted to looks, because here we have an audio, not a video, hexing, but it is a hexing.
Beautiful.
So then maybe I can say something about ithake, and
Which line are you at, Lenny?
Ithake, the word for Odysseus, the name of Odysseus' island.
Oh yes, sorry. I see. Yep.
Because, for example, another form of this noun, ethox, a masculinized form, is attested in the lexicon of Hesychius as the name of Prometheus, the fire god. Right? And it may be connected to other words having to do with that Odysseus names himself as Ithone, which may be a related root, I'm not sure. But anyway, here you have him thinking of it as a place where the smoke rises up from the land. And that actually is what he sees when he almost gets home from the island of the winds. That's what he sees as the fire.
Nice.
People making fire on Ithaca.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so, I have nothing to add. I never really thought of it in this, the next line, that he's desiring to see the smoke, and it's like a gloss on the name of the island.
Exactly.
Yeah, the line before.
See, if you wanted to give Odysseus a pet name, he could be Sparky, because there's also, of course, the famous scene at the end of Rhapsody 5, where his entire existence is reduced to one live spark and covered by a mass of ashes, and that's the least common denominator. That's, if you want to reduce Odysseus to just before nothing, then he's a spark.
Right. It might go out if it doesn't get.
And if he goes out, then he goes out. But this is the kind of thing that a lot of classicists get very upset about, because if they don't know linguistics, they say, "What are these people talking? I don't see any sparks flying,"
right,
so to speak. But and I really subscribe to everything that Lenny said about the importance of seeing that ithake is directly related to ethox, directly related to aitho, meaning be on fire. And a good study on that is Olga Levanyuk,
yes,
on Odyssey 19.
Exactly. Yeah. The last thing is that he longs to die, which is a pretty striking expression, right?
It is.
In a sense, there's it needs to be glozed with the idea that she wants to make him immortal and ageless, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so wanting to go home means going home and being dead and not immortal, right?
Yes. But it's all very tricky because because when we finally get to Odyssey 5 and you see what happens to mortal males like Odysseus if they have sex with immortal females like Calypso, and they're all going to die.
Yes.
And sure, there's promise of immortality, but they have to die first. And dying is all important. And in fact, that's exactly what would have happened to Odysseus, I would argue, if he had stayed around with Calypso. And why does that matter? Well, that way he wouldn't have had a nostos.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm.
So sure. Oh, I want to die. Well, okay, I want to be immortal, and you're claiming that you're making me immortal. It's just, I think, giving you a sense of foreboding about how dangerous this whole situation is.
Yes.
And I think I've said this before, but we are so deluded because of our own sound associations when it comes to the name Calypso. In my case, I'm sorry, but I think of the Caribbean music. I think of Captain Jacques Cousteau and his beautiful ship where dolphins are dancing around the ship and everybody's happy and it's a celebration of life. I think of Harry Belafonte, who sings Calypso songs, and he is full of life and has a shirt that's open down to his navel, and it's a great celebration. And in real life, Calypso in Greek, the association is, may the earth lie not too heavily on your corpse. And I think Lenny mentioned earlier that the root kal of Calypso is cognate with, let's say, Germanic hell, as in English hell, in the sense of being secluded and sequestered from life. And it's very threatening. It's about as threatening a name as you can think of, so it's not a pretty name.
Wow. Okay.
It's more like witch hazel.
Okay. Beautiful.
Only slightly better than Styx.
Only slightly better than Styx, and I think Doug was so perceptive to say that the word associations of Styx and of Calypso are very close. So poetically, everybody knows that he's doomed if he stays with Calypso. So for him to say, "Oh, I just want to die," is shall we say, fraught with complications.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Greg, actually, can you help us continue reading and maybe get through the rest of this?
Oh, twist my arm.
Passage here, because we want to get to more of this.
Sure. And isn't it nice that Lenny left me with the middle of a line, or not quite the middle, but towards the end of a line. Aŭtár Odysseus. No, that's not where he left me.
59.
No.
But it was similar break in the line. Uden nyssoiper entrepetai philon etor Olympia? Question mark. Unut Odysseus argeion paraneusi charitzato hiararedzon Troiai aneureiai tinuoi toson Odyssa odzeu.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I didn't do that right.
Odyssa
odzeu. Yeah, okay. Okay, let's do that again. Troiai aneureiai tinuoi toson Odyssa odzeu. Odyssa odzeu. Okay, so doesn't your heart, your own heart, get involved with him, Olympian one? Literally, doesn't he figure? No, I like the
hard.
way I did it first. It doesn't your heart
That's it.
get involved for you, and by implication about him, Olympian one. Didn't Odysseus, next to the ships of the Argives, used to be pleasing to you when he was making sacrifices back in Troy with the vast expanses of territory, in vast Troy? So why are you so hateful to him, O Zeus? All right, and I don't like to use the word pun. I'll start at the ending and work my way back, because I'm of a generation where the number one artist of puns was Ogden Nash, but Ogden Nash was lighthearted, and puns don't have to be lighthearted, and they don't have to be playful. They can be dead serious. And so the association here of the word for hate and the name of Odysseus is meant to be very serious. I don't think it's playful at all. And so why all this hatred, O Zeus, for him? And the name Odysseus, so the name, excuse me, the verb Odysseus is definitely a reference to the name of Odysseus.
Right.
And literary critics of all persuasions have been sensitive to this, although not necessarily very helpful about how to explain it.
Yep.
I like the fact that she's saying that hasn't Odysseus always been a very good company man? And if you look at all the Iliad, all 15,000 plus verses, you'll see that Odysseus, although he's definitely a trickster figure in the Odyssey, in the Iliad he is always the most trusted counselor to Agamemnon. And even when it comes to the geography, or shall I say the logistics of how the ships of the Achaeans are beached along the shores of the Hellespont, there's Achilles' ship beached at the extreme northwest. There's Ajax's ship beached at the extreme northeast. But Agamemnon's ship, which is the ship of state, so to speak, is beached right in the middle. So if you think of the beached ships, well, either as an arc or a line, I prefer to think of it as an arc, but I won't go there now. It's the central place.
And Odysseus is right next to Agamemnon, right?
And his ship is right next to Agamemnon, and he is the counselor to Agamemnon. And he just bears out whatever Agamemnon does, whether Agamemnon's right or wrong. And therefore, the idea of sacrifices back then, and who sacrificed correctly and not, and a bunch of us have been worried a lot about sacrifices going wrong, or maybe going wrong, either during the Trojan War or after the Trojan War. I think we're very sensitized to how this is a complicated statement, because is Odysseus's ritual behavior really all that wonderful in the Iliad? Does Athena really approve of everything that Odysseus did at Troy? Much more complicated than we can say now. But at least the rhetoric of what the goddess Athena is saying is, he's done well by you. So why all this odium for Odysseus? That's the way sometimes teachers of Homer translate Odysseus. Oh, but okay, so that's one comment. I guess I don't really want to comment on anything else, because we're running out of time too.
Do you want me to briefly tell you about Logoi and Hesiod?
Please.
So
yes,
there are
yes.
two examples in the theogony. One is in the list of the children of Eris.
Mm-hmm.
and the list includes panos, toil, lethe, forgetfulness, limos, hunger, algea daptoanta, woes that make people weep, busmi nasta mahasta, battles, panus tam narakatasiasta, slaughters and the killings of men, nekea tepseltia, quarrels and lies, telagustam philogiasta, and logoi and amphilogiai.
Arguments.
Okay. Arguments, okay? And then the other one, I have misremembered it. It's not a woman. It's at the very end in the passage that may not be part of the text of the theology, but anyhow, it's when Zeus seduces Metis and gets her to and swallows her whole.
Uh-huh.
So he does it with ḥamiliōsi logoisi. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So it's the way it's described as tatsapeta dolo phrenas exapatesos, deceiving her mind with his trickery, with ḥamiliōi logoi. He put her inside his own nedus.
I'm okay with saying that logoi with ḥamiliōi means something negative, but what gives it its negativity is the epithet.
Yeah.
And if you look at logoi all by itself, as in Iliad 15, line 393, here it is.
There's nothing special there.
Nothing special. In fact, somebody is being given delight by the logoi.
He took pleasure in the logoi. That's interesting. That's the only one.
It's the only one.
Iliad, right?
In the Iliad, yeah.
Book 3?
Book 15.
Book 15.
Uh-huh.
So we have something to continue thinking about, right? Unfortunately, it's 5:01, but that's such a fun place to stop. Lenny, could you just tell us what line you were just talking about in the Theogony?
So it's Theogony 229 and 890.
Super interesting. Okay. Well, thank you so much. What a fascinating discussion. I feel like we had a chance to talk about so many interesting things just within this 1 hour. But I do know it is time that we need to sign off, so I appreciate everyone's time, and I look forward to doing this hopefully in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Thank you, Claudia.
Thanks, Claudia.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thanks, Connie.